Let me begin by wishing all of you a happy Easter, as it's coming very quickly. But before I go into some details about what I want to encourage you to think about this month, I want to recognize that last month my topic, if you recall, was pretty grim. I was speaking about the reality of our students living in an increasingly oppressive age, where they are increasingly fearful and careful about what they say and do. And the negative side of presenting what is really going on is that it can leave us feeling discouraged, disempowered, fearful, like, where's the bunker? Get me the bunker. And that is not the posture that God calls us to maintain in this world. And I just have to honestly tell you that I wrestle with falling into a negative mindset. I wrestle with falling into a pattern of thinking that makes me just wish for it all to be over. I started doing something this year that has really refreshed my prayer life. There's an organization called Open Door that you may or may not be aware of. And Open Door has an app that you can download on your phone that makes you aware of the church around the world, and in particular, the ways in which believers are suffering. Now, it might appear to be a really negative thing to spend every morning praying for a group of Christians, whether they be in places like India or Nigeria or North Korea, that are paying a really high price for being faithful to Jesus. Every morning as I pray for specific people and specific groups of people, I read stories about kidnappings and imprisonments, in some cases people that have lost their lives. And it certainly is sobering. It certainly helps me to realize that for many of our brothers and sisters around the world, being a follower of Jesus Christ is something that is costing them everything. But there's a vein of gold that I mine every morning when I read these stories. And here it is. Despite the incredible adversity that my brothers and sisters are experiencing, they continue to cling to Jesus. They continue to believe in his goodness. They continue to look to God for his goodness and his salvation. And here's the key. They continue to share with their neighbor the resurrection and how that changes everything. It is a community that is rooted in such an undefeatable hope that despite all of the opposition that is coming against them, they cannot help but continue to brightly proclaim that Jesus is going to give their neighbors, some of whom are actively trying to suppress and silence them in really awful ways, that Jesus will give these neighbors the hope, the life, the future that they long for. And I ultimately find praying for these communities of believers extremely uplifting and extremely hopeful. On a low level, it gives me hope that even if things get worse for us here in Canada, our God is going to sustain our faith and he is going to uphold us. And so it leads to less anxiety. But more to the point, and this is what I really want to focus on this morning, it helps me understand that what every neighbor in our community needs is hope. What every community and town and province, what our entire nation needs is hope. And we are the only ones that have hope. And believers, people like you and me, people like the families that belong to your school community, your students, who are rooted in the reality of forgiveness in Christ, of the mercy of God, of not having any guilt and shame before their Creator, of having no fear of death and having the hope of the resurrection, cannot help but live, even as things get hard and even as adversity comes their way, with this undefeatable hope, undefeatable joy. You see, I think in my own life, when I get a little discouraged, it's honestly because I'm clinging to stuff in this world that I can't really trust. And so I begin to worry that I'm going to lose that stuff, whether it be my status, my retirement plan, my my community standing, whatever it is. And all of that stuff does get threatened in this world, even if you're not a Christian, even if you're not a follower of Jesus. So how can you have a positive and hopeful outlook if you're clinging to things that you know are like sand that can easily slip through your hands? On the other hand, if you're rooted in something that can't change, that can't be taken from you, that is more real than the body in which you currently occupy, it's pretty hard for you to become overwhelmed, discouraged, and despairing. And you know what Canada needs? It needs people like you and I who know Jesus, who know the resurrection, who look forward to the future. Because the strange thing is, the more we live brightly in that reality, the better the present becomes. The better the neighborhoods in which we live become, the better everything becomes. And so we can't give ourselves over to a kind of doom mindset whereby we think it's only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, and we just have to hang on. I think we have to actually fight against that attitude. Yes, the word says, in this world you will have trouble. And some of our brothers and sisters are enduring trouble like we couldn't even imagine right now. But take heart, Jesus says, I have overcome the world. And he's actually going to use that trouble to refine us and to make us realize what we have that can't be taken from us, and to increase our joy, to increase our anticipation of the future, to make us brighter and more hopeful and more lovely members of our local communities, and then to bring that hope to a community that then motivates them to make their communities and their provinces and their countries a better place. Because everywhere in the world, throughout the history of the church, where believers have really taken seriously the resurrection and the hope that is brought them by the gospel and by the life and the work of Jesus, they have just naturally over time made everything better. So I'm not in any way resigned to watching my community, my province, my country just sort of fade into the twilight of history. I'm actually believing that through my prayers, through my efforts, through my love for my neighbors, through my use of gifts and resources to make things better, that I can bring some hope to a corner of my nation, which could spread in a broad way. So this Easter, beyond celebrating the fact that you have nothing to worry about, that your body is going to be resurrected one day, that this world is going to be a place of perfect justice and peace, also be aware of the fact that the very hope that you have in your future can make the present better. And let's not give in to doom scrolling and doom thinking. Let's just not go there, because the world is there already. Let's bring to this fearful world the hope of the resurrection and the hope of a better today, as well as a wonderful tomorrow. So may this Easter season be a time of joy, be a time of sweet anticipation, and be a time of renewed compassion for your neighbors and renewed determination to give your neighbors hope, and therefore to motivate your neighbors to work hard for better communities for the glory of God. Bless you this Easter.